Dans un peu plus de 5 minutes, nous accueillerons la première concurrente de ces championnats du monde des chevaux de 6 ans, ici au Lion d'Angers. Et c'est sous l'égide de la Fédération équestre internationale, présidée par M. Ingmar de Vos, en partenariat avec la World Breeding Federation of Sport Horses. Yves-Marie Vandamme, président du Lion équestre mondial du Lion, organisateur de ces championnats du monde. Sophie Cellier, directrice du concours. Florence Dabin, présidente du conseil départemental de Maine-et-Loire, propriétaire du parc de l'île Briand. Et Christelle Morancet, présidente de la région des Pays de la Loire, sont heureux de vous accueillir pour la 39e édition du Mondial du Lion. Nous aurons l'occasion de les citer tout au long de la journée du cross, mais nous tenons d'ores et déjà à remercier nos partenaires institutionnels, privés, et toutes celles et ceux qui, par leur engagement, concourent à la réussite de cet événement, sans oublier les personnels du site et les 325 bénévoles. Nous vous inviterons aussi à rendre visite aux exposants, toujours plus nombreux dans le village, où vous pourrez vous restaurer et vous désaltérer, ainsi que sur le parcours. Le Mondial du Lion labellisé Écuresse s'inscrit dans les objectifs de développement durable que l'UNESCO s'est fixé dans son agenda 2030. Voilà, ça c'était le mot d'accueil et remerciements à nos partenaires. Il est 8h56, un peu moins de 4 minutes pour l'entrée en piste de l'Australienne Isabelle English. On est à 1 minute 30 du départ de la première concurrente. Elle monte pour l'Australie, Elysiane.
Well, a very warm welcome to Le Lion d'Angers for the Young Horse World Championships of 2023. Looking forward to a brilliant weekend of sport where we will be watching some of the future stars of our sport, ridden by some of the best in the world. And we start the dressage phase today with the first of our 6-year-old competitors coming forwards. And it is Elen Fields Pra, ridden by Isabel English for Australia. So how the competition will work throughout this weekend is both today and tomorrow. We will see, first of all, half of the field of the 6-year-old class, and then half of the 7-year-old class coming forward today, and the remaining competitors for both lining up between the whiteboards tomorrow. Saturday, it is all about Pierre Michelet's cross-country course, and the cross-country here in Le Lion d'Angers absolutely is a real work of art. It's something extraordinary, definitely worth tuning in for that before we find out on Sunday who will be crowned champions of Le Lion in 2023. So, getting us underway for Australia, Isabel English, 27 years old as well, rides Elen Fields Pra. It's a horse by Diorado, a horse who has sired so many top event horses. If you were following any of the coverage from Buccalo a couple of weeks ago, you'd have seen plenty in the field there, including a couple ridden by Lara de Quidam and the likes of Laura Collett's De Capo. Elen Fields Pra, owned by Sarah English, Sophia von Moltke, and Jenny and John Curtis. And there's so much to like about the initial impression of this combination. Isabel, a very elegant, tall rider, but the horse, lovely uphill way of going. You can just see at times tiny little bit of inconsistency creeping in. Really taking the contact. Competitors doing the 2-star Dressage Test B for the 6-year-old class. And that serpentine of 2 loops, all about allowing the horse to stretch forwards and down. I want them to keep light in the contact, maintain their balance as well. Such a key component of what we're going to see over the next couple of days with these young horses. Want to really maintain the regularity of the canter there. Simple change over the centre line. And into the medium canter. Want to see the transition in and out, and the transition out there was lovely, right in front of President of our ground jury, Angela Tucker. Just lost a little bit of balance in that loop, but she kept it together really well. I thought for a second the horse was just going to be tempted to become disunited. And the rein back is 3 to 4 steps. So we really see the scale of difficulty throughout the dressage test. If you've been tuned in throughout the year, when you get up the 4-star level, it is exactly 5 steps of rein back. Whereas they give these younger horses, or the less experienced horses, younger certainly in this case in Le Lion d'Angers, a little bit more leeway, a little bit more freedom. And again, the free walk across the centre line. Just slight bit of tension there as they took up their transition to trot. But a lovely finish. And I think Isabel, on the whole, will be really pleased with Elen Fields Pra, because very rideable, kept it together. There's a huge arena here in Le Lion d'Angers. And for some of these young horses, they perhaps haven't been exposed to this level of competition before. Some of them will have seen, certainly at a few of their prep runs, a few crowds perhaps, a few trade stands. But Le Lion is definitely a next level experience. It takes a very special 6-year-old to come to Le Lion d'Angers and go well, especially when we see the crowds out on the cross country on Saturday. Unbelievably busy. But Elen Fields Pra. Isabel English, get us underway here in Le Lion d'Angers. 33.5 they are trending, and this accommodation that have had some really, really good clear rounds cross country at Cornbury, at Bergem, Mill Street throughout this year. Actually, we're 6th at Mill Street in the young horse 2-star a little bit earlier on. And so 33.5 sets the standard. A welcome to our ground jury. President of our ground jury at C for Great Britain, Angela Tucker. At E for Australia, Peter Shaw. And at M for the Netherlands, Meryl Schurink, who was most recently on duty in Boekelo as part of the ground jury there. Well, delighted to see that the rain has stopped in Le Lion. Yesterday was very, very wet. So fingers crossed the forecast is improving for the rest of the weekend.
64.32, judging E 66.59, judging M 68.64, for an average of 66.52, provisional score 33.5.
So now for the Czech Republic, it is Miroslav Trunda. Miroslav, 38 years of age, represented the Czech Republic at the World Championships last year with his top ride Shutterfly. Also has been to the European Championships as well, was part of the Czech Republic campaign at the Olympic Games in Tokyo also. And has had some good results here at Le Lion in the past as well. A couple of top 15 finishes in the 6-year-old class, including with Shutterfly, actually, who was 8th back in 2017. He'd love it if Avita can go on to continue that kind of form in the future. This 6-year-old, who was bred by Victor Cupra, by Tisnit, owned by Adela Spodovova. Just the one 2-star run for this combination. They finished 7th at Babruzco in the 6-year-old class a little bit earlier on this year. And when combinations get to this part of the test with the serpentine, we've got 2 loops, and each loop has to go to the side of the arena. You can do it in rising trot, which just really takes the weight off the horse's back, encourages them to stretch forwards and down before picking up the canter transition. There's a good bit of canter work in this test as well, actually. Slight change in the regularity of the canter in that loop. Picks up change across the diagonal. And then you're very quickly into medium canter on that circle left of 20 meters. And you only have to show some medium canter strides, so the whole circle doesn't have to be at medium canter. But you do get judged for the transition as well. A little bit above the bit into the halt. It's 3 steps back in the rein back. A little bit tight through the body. And just, you could see resisting slightly there coming into that final halt, which Peter Gray at E would have had a very clear line of vision of. But Miroslav Trunda and Avita completing their test here in Le Lion d'Angers aren't going to challenge the early lead set by Isabel English and Sildara Dallas, in fact, Elen Fields Prado. Sildara Dallas, a horse that actually Isabel did bring up through Le Lion d'Angers. She's got a really nice team of horses based with Kevin McNabb over in the UK now. Moved over from her home in Australia a few years ago, but has got a really, really good team and set up over on British soil. And certainly, I'm sure, will be making her mark on championship teams for Australia in the future. So 37.1 for Miroslav Trunda and Avita. That sees him go into second on the leaderboard at the moment.
Coolnorran Cooley, Amanda Goldsbury.
Next to come forwards, it is Amanda Goldsbury. Amanda rides for New Zealand, but also flying the Irish flag here as well, because representing Cooley Farm, this horse owned by Cooley alongside Richard Sheen, Richard and Georgina Sheen, of course, who run Cooley Farm. And Amanda has been based over in Ireland for a good number of years now part of the Cooley Farm team. And Coolnorran Cooley, the horse that she brings forward by I'm Special de Muse. Amanda, brilliant at producing the young horses. And Coolnorran Cooley actually was third, finished on a sub-30 dressage score at Mill Street in the horse's only international run of his career. Was bred by Mark Hessian. You can really see already picking up some really nice marks from the judges. Amanda presenting certainly the early part of this test beautifully. Showing those medium canter strides on that 20-metre circle. Remember, it doesn't have to be a whole circle of medium canter, perhaps a little bit conservative, but sometimes the way to get the best out of these young horses isn't to ask for too much. And actually she did a lovely job on that loop because kept the regularity of the canter, the rhythm, all stayed very, very regular. Didn't change at all. And again, just perhaps a little bit less conservative on the second of those medium canter strides. But the loop very easy. Amanda doing a good job there because Coolnorran Cooley just coming a little bit behind the vertical in that downward transition to trot. Just encouraged him straight away to take his head forwards. Lovely halt. 1, 2, 3. 3 steps in the rein back. That's fine. You can do between 3 to 4. Tiny little bit of tension creeping in. Amanda was just asking him to take the contact forward to stretch his nose out a little bit more. This horse by I'm Special the Muse, who himself came up through the young horse classes in the jumping world.
Vous venez d'assister à la reprise d'Amanda Goldsbury. Elle montait pour la Nouvelle-Zélande, Coolnorran Cooley.
So Coolnorran Cooley and Amanda Goldsbury, the first of our New Zealand combinations, will go into the lead. And a huge amount to like from this young horse, Cooley, who are well regarded and well known for their production of world-class young horses. They've gone on to have 5-star winners. They've had horses that have flown all over the world, flown flags of all different countries as well. They would dearly love to add another Le Lion title to their tally this weekend. Cooley Lancer was the last Cooley horse to win in Le Lion d'Angers. Took the title here back in 2019, the 6-year-old class with Piggy March. I think that was their first Le Lion d'Angers winner as well. So 31.7 is the standard for Amanda Goldsbury and Coolnorran Cooley for New Zealand. So Le Lion d'Angers for these young horse, well, breeding championships. Le Lion, a small town just in southwest of Paris, probably around 200 miles southwest of Paris. Most incredible chateau, the backdrop to the competition, and they've got some incredible new facilities here over the last few years as well. They've really invested in the event and the venue, particularly with the introduction of the all-weather surface that now the dressage and the jumping takes place on. used to be on a grass arena. And certainly for these young horses, it's made a real difference. So, Merrill Blom-Hulsman for the Netherlands next to come forward. Ukario R. Merrill, who was part of the Dutch team, who put in a very strong performance to Boekelo in the Nations Cup Series final. Ukario R, owned by Stahl Blom-Hulsman, by Unicato. And Merrill, another rider who would have been coming to Le Lion d'Angers for many, many years. Had some good podium finishes as well. Was second with the Quizmaster in the 6-year-old class back in 2015. Corminter van Gwick was took the individual bronze medal back in 2020 as well, also in the 6-year-old class. This was actually top 15 in Arville in the 2-star short format there. And also in Jardy a little bit earlier on this summer. Kept good balance and regularity in that cantaloupe. Showed some really nice medium canter strides there. Very clear difference. Actually, one thing that's really struck me with these first few horses that have come in is how rideable, relaxed they all are. They'll have been at the venue for a couple of days. They'll have had the opportunity to do arena familiarization. But they're all looking pretty at ease with their surroundings. Not quite straight in the rein back. A little bit crooked in the halt as well. I think a few riders as well took the opportunity to perhaps come into Le Lion a little bit earlier than they would arrive at a 3-day event normally with their older horses. It just gives these young horses a bit more of an opportunity to settle into their surroundings, especially if they have a Thursday dressage. Just anticipated the trot transition there. Not quite quite straight, not quite square in the final halt, but a smart test from Merrill Blumholzman and Ukario R. They are trending around 33.2, so aren't going to challenge the lead of Amanda Goldsbury on 31.7 with Coolnorran Cooley. And if you're looking for any of the results here this weekend, then worldsporttiming.com is where you need to go. And you can see all of the start lists, the results as well, for both the 6-year-olds and the 7-year-olds. 31.7 is the target, and 33.0 into second, beg your pardon, for Merrill Blumholzman and Ukario R. So the Netherlands go into second. As we hit the halfway stage of this first session of dressage. Next to come forward will be for Belgium, Avita de Quidam and Ragdoll de Tamise. Belgium, who have enjoyed such a successful 2023. They had a tricky time last year, didn't secure an Olympic team qualification at the World Championships in Protoni, and they came out on fire at the start of this season. They finished on the podium in all but one of the Nations Cup legs. In the one they didn't finish on the podium, they finished in 4th. They have been unbelievably consistent. Kai-Stefan Meyer, their chef de keep, has really rotated, utilised the combinations that are available to him. And one of those riders has certainly been Avita de Quidam, who is 35 years of age. Has been to Le Lion d'Angers on a few occasions previously. Had 2 rides in 2019. Before that, his first ride here was actually 10 years prior. Came up through the junior young rider ranks for Belgium. And actually, well, Quintera, his top ride, Ragdoll de Tamise, was bred by Stal Tamise, by Figo Darswiel. The dam was actually Laguna van de Verhoef. Who one would imagine, and I would double check, but would be closely related to Karen Donker's championship ride, Fletcher van de Verhoef. By the same sire, Figo Darswiel, as Fletcher van de Verhoef, who has represented Belgium at many a major championship. Slightly unbalanced, coming back down into the trot transition. Picked up the canter very quickly. Just at times losing the quality of the canter, perhaps. And this halt at sea comes directly in front of President of the Ground Jury, Angela Tucker. But actually, because it is directly in front of her, depends on her view as to how clear an angle she gets of how square the horse would be, because it is so close. But actually it looks like she's got pretty good visibility, a little bit higher, so it looks down. That's the first 8 we've seen for a rein back, I think, throughout the morning. And then unfortunately just trailing the off hind, so not quite square. In front was very square in that final halt. So Avita de Quidam, Ragdoll de Tamise. This horse owned by Avita alongside Herades de Quidam. Mare. Very used to always saying a horse's age, but of course all of these are 6-year-olds, believe it or not, the 6-year-old Young Horse World Championships. We'll see the 7-year-olds a little bit later on today. I think the first horse in the 7-year-olds class comes down the centre line at 1 o'clock Central European time. So that will be 12 o'clock if you're tuning in the UK, 7 a.m. if you're on the east coast of the United States. And there we go, 33.9 into 4th for Avita de Quidam and Ragdoll de Tamise.
Ragdoll de Tamise, juge en C 66,14, juge en E 64,55, juge en M 67,50, un pourcentage moyen de 66,06 et un score de 33,90. C'est la 4e.
So Amanda Goldsbury is still the one to beat. Coolnorran Cooley on 31.7. Owned by Richard Sheen and Cooley Farm. So next to come forwards, another ride for the Netherlands. And this time it is Renske Cruiser and Magic Coconut. Owned by René van der Leest. We'll be presenting to our ground jury for the 6-year-old class, led by President of the Ground Jury, Angela Tucker. She's at C. At E is Peter Shaw for Australia, and at M, Merrill Sherink from the Netherlands.
Next to go for the Netherlands, number 6. Magic Coconut KWPL.
So Renske Cruiser next to come forwards. 34 years of age. Trains with Bettina Hoy, who of course exceptional in the first phase. Actually represented the Netherlands at the World Championships back in 2018 in Tryon. Hasn't actually been to the Young Horse World Championships for eventing, but has been for jumping, and actually finished 13th, just outside the top 10 with Birdie in Lanarken back in 2017, which is an enormous achievement because the Jumping Young Horse World Championships, unbelievably competitive. Magic Coconut, the horse she brings forward here today, by Carrera VDL, was bred by PJM Verbakel. Out of the mare Coconut Girl, who's by Coconut Grove. As I say, owned by René van der Leest. combination who actually were top 10 at both handback and at Nokia Verigam in the 2-star classes on their last couple of runs. Scored 33 exactly on their last 2 tests. Just looking a little bit spooky. First horse we've really seen actually to be having a jolly good look around at what's in the arena. Because of that, just coming above the contact slightly, particularly at the end of that, and having a little bit of a tense moment at, I think, one of the flower pots perhaps as well. And just actually lost a lot of that corner. Was very generous in the giving of the rein, Renska, during that serpentine. Brings the horse back really nicely from the medium canter. Neat with the canter transition. You can see really rewarded with that for an 8 from Peter Shaw. Just such a shame that that tension crept in at sort of the middle end part of the trot work, because actually Touch Wood seems to have really settled into the canter. Not quite square in the halt. Didn't quite step up to halt as much as I think Renska would have liked either. Actually very relaxed in that free walk, which was nice because it was coming directly into the corner where the spooking first started. A little bit inconsistent in the contact going into the trot transition. Just comes above the bit into the halt. Unfortunately, rather dribbles into the final halt, not quite square at all. But this was a really smart test from this horse, and I think Renska will have been delighted with actually how he just settled, because it got a little bit spooky at times in the trot work. And as we've said, you know, there's a lot for these young horses to take in this arena. But actually really did focus on the task at hand, particularly as they picked up the canter work. And there would have been some good marks in there as well. So we'll wait for her score to come in. But it looks like we'll go into around 4th place on the leaderboard at the moment. Renske Cruiser and Magic Coconut for the Netherlands. The final collective mark for harmony of athlete and horse, described as a confident partnership created by adhering to the scales of training, and 33.9 for Renske sees them go into 4th place on the leaderboard. Well, this 6-year-old class has seen some great winners in the past. The likes of Izzy Taylor's Monkeying Around, who went on to win the 4-star long format at Bramham Top 10 at the European Championships as well. Thomas Carlyle actually won here last year with Golden de Billiard, who is back in the 7-year-old class this time. William Fox-Pitt's Oslo, also a former winner of the 6-year-old class here in Lilian d'Angers. And Michael Young's Fisher Rakana, the supermare who went on to win 3 Land Rover Kentuckys, won here back in 2011. As next to come forwards, it is another combination actually from the Czech Republic. Kristina Krakowska and Complication. This mare by Coupe Gold, owned by Kristina herself. Kristina, who has only competed this horse internationally in 2023, as I say, by Coupe Gold, out of a mare called Athena. Seventh in Shvelnizny Borova in the Czech Republic in a 2-star back at the end of August, saw their qualification for Lilian d'Angers. Picked up the canter transition well. Just getting a little bit behind the vertical in that first of those canter loops. And they'll come across the diagonal for the change of rein, change of leg through trot. Picked up the change very well and very efficiently. Just getting a little bit behind the vertical, the nose just tucking into the chest a little bit too much at times. You can see not quite pulling out the big marks, getting fairly focused around the 6s, 6.5s. not quite square in the hole, which actually makes that rein back quite difficult because they're already starting from being out. So the rein back, they go back in diagonal pairs. But actually, if they've already got one hind leg out behind, for example, say, it already sets them off on a quite difficult foot to be able to get your rein back as well. So the one movement bleeds very, very quickly into the next movement. So comes up the final centre line. Le Lion d'Angers debut for Krystyna Krakowska this weekend. With Complication. And looking to be trending around 37.8. So just a reminder that the leader at the moment remains unchallenged. It is Amanda Goldsbury, Coolnorran Cooley. Coolnorran Cooley on 31.7 ahead of Merrill Blum-Holzman, Ukario R 33.0. Isabel English, who was the first down the centre line this morning, Elen Fields Pra 33.5 in third. So 37.7 for Krystyna Krakowska, and a Complication sees them go into 7th place on the leaderboard at the moment, but still within 2 rails of the leader. In terms of what sort of score we would be expecting to win this class, we've seen absolutely everything. The record in the last 15 years, 25.1. That was Izzy Taylor monkeying around. Last year's winner, Thomas Carlyle, Golden de Billiard, finished on their dressage score of 27.6. But that is one thing that I would really say is that actually every single one of our last 15 or so winners have gone clear inside the time cross country, and 13 of them have actually jumped clear in the show jumping as well and finished on their dressage score. 2 had rails down in the show jumping. One was William Fox Pitts Oslo, and the other was Michael Young and Fisher and Cantos back in 2015. So now for Ireland, it is Ian Cassels. Ian rides Greenogue Gigi, owned by Con McCarthy. This mare by Jetem Flamenco, Billy Toomey's wonderful show jumping sire. Ian, who had a couple of rides actually out in Buccleuch at the Nations Cup final a few weeks ago. A young rider that's been really making his mark over in Ireland, has twice been awarded the George Murner bursary, which helps riders establish their careers within the sport. Won the 2021 Eventing Ireland's Red Mills, Connolly's Red Mills Opposition Beaten Percentage League as well. Actually, Ian had his first rides here in Le Lion d'Angers just this time last year. Had 2 top 20 finishes, including 5th with Rosconnell Alto in the 3-star long format. Con McCarthy, who owns this mare, actually bred her as well, out of a mare called Quita, who was by Dow Jones Corsell. They actually won the 2-star at Ballendenisk. Finished on their dressage score of 32.0. It's very interesting to see different riders' definition of the medium canter circle, because essentially the test itself describes it very much as shows some strides of medium canter. So you circle left 20 meters, show some strides of medium canter. They're focused on the transition into the medium canter, then the accuracy and bend on the circle, balance and lengthening of the strides. But you don't have to give the whole circle. We've seen some people really going for it and trying to give as much as they can, and others who have been much more conservative. And Ian actually just corrected the mare there. She wasn't quite square. She did step up behind, but then unfortunately just stepped back a little bit as well. But as much about getting a good score in the test today for these young horses is obviously of the utmost importance, but actually it's giving these horses experience for the future, and being able to put the building blocks in the foundations of their training and their experience and their knowledge. Lovely and square in front, but again, not quite square behind in that final halt. So Ian Cassell's Greenogue Gigi complete their test. Not going to challenge the leaders, Amanda Goldsbury and Coolnorran Cooley. Amanda, a rider that Ian would know pretty well. They compete on the Eventing Island circuit week in, week out against one another. Amanda, who, while flying the New Zealand flag here, has been based over in Ireland for a good number of years. And 31.7 is the score to beat, and that is going to be the target that takes us into the first break of the day. Would say that there's one or two coming forward in this second session that could certainly look to challenge that. Molly Summerland's Mojo, definitely one to look out for. They come forward at 10:48 local time, so towards the end of this second session of dressage, but lots to look forward to. Ian Cassell's Greenogue Gigi just completing their test here in Le Lion d'Angers, the Young Horse World Breeding Championships for eventing. And brilliant to see some blue skies and much calmer weather than everybody encountered yesterday for the first horse inspection, which was very wet to say the least. And certainly these 6-year-olds, as they come into the arena early this morning, it feels almost serene in there. I have no doubt that as the day progresses, it will get busier. The crowds will become much more obvious as well. And the 7-year-olds, the horses with a little bit more experience, a bit more mileage under their belts, will be seeing that a little bit later on today. So Ian Cassell's and Greenogue Gigi have completed. We're just waiting for a confirmed score for them, but looks like it'll be around 35.3, which will see them go into 6th on the leaderboard. And we actually do have a short break now, because next to come forward, Therese Vickland and Cella will be down the centre line in around 10 minutes time. So do stay with us for the next session of dressage. Therese Vickland coming forward as 35.2 confirmed for Ian Cassels and Greenogue Gigi, and they go into 6th on the leaderboard. So we will be back after this short break and look forward to bringing you the second session of dressage here in the Young Horse World Breeding Championships in Le Lion d'Angers. Do stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few short minutes.
Et un score de 35,2, la 6e place au provisoire. Judges Good Marks for number 8, Judging C 66.82 in E, 63.86 in M, 63.86 for an average of 64.85, provisional score 35.2, 6th place so far. C'est donc la Nouvelle-Zélande qui est en tête au classement provisoire de dressage du championnat du monde des chevaux de 6 ans, avec un score de 31,70, Amanda Goldsbury et Coolnorran Cooley, 31,70. Deuxième place pour les Pays-Bas, Meryl Blommelsman, Ukario, 33 points. Troisième place, Isabelle English, Elen Fields Pra pour l'Australie, 33,50. Quatrième, c'est la Belgique et Herades de Quidam, Ragdoll de Tamise, 34 points. Quatrième ex aequo, Prosa pour les Pays-Bas et Magic Coconut, 34. Sixième pour l'Irlande, Ian Cassels, Greenogue Gigi, 35-20. Septième pour la République tchèque, Miroslav Trunda et Avita, 37,10. Et huitième pour la République tchèque, Kristina Krakowska et Complication, 37,70. se présente en piste pour la Suède. Elle monte Cella. C'est Thérèse.
Welcome back to Le Lion d'Angers
SWP
here in France for the Young Horse World Championships. And Therese Wickland Cella will be the next to get us underway. Le Lion d'Angers, an iconic location in eventing, and has hosted these Breeding World Championships for many, many years now. It's become synonymous with showcasing the stars of the future in the sport. And these really are the horses that are going to go on, and we hope we'll see at the very top level for many, many years to come. Plenty of Le Lion d'Angers graduates have gone on to big and brilliant things. So, Therese Wickland for Sweden. Now the first of a couple of Swedish combinations in this second session. This horse owned by Therese alongside Lena Nystrom. This mare by Mr. Vane GJ. Sweden actually won this 6-year-old class back in 2010 with Sarah Olgertson Assault and Reality 39. Therese, who represented Tokyo at the Olympics, represented Sweden at the Tokyo Olympic Games. And has actually been here on 3 previous occasions, all of which have been pretty successful as well. Just encouraging the horse to take the contact forward. 2 loops in that serpentine. You want the horse to really take the contact forward and stretch down, but you want that contact to be consistent as well. A little bit abrupt into the trot transition, but then really nicely done through trot, picking up the left canter lead. Therese always very, very good in the first phase, and this test absolutely no exception. Not quite square behind, but not a million miles away. And again, that kind of depends on the judge's position as to how much they would see it, because certainly from where we were looking, we didn't get a clear shot of not being quite square behind. Good over track in the free walk. Unfortunately, the Holtz and probably the Rainback is just going to affect her score slightly, which is a real shame because still on track to take over the lead here. So, Therese Wickland will take the Swedish flag to the top of the leaderboard with Cella. We'll wait for their final few scores to come in, but a huge amount to like from this combination. And I imagine Therese will be ruining the Holt and the Rainback slightly because just dragging her score down. But she'll still be our first sub-30 of the weekend.
La Suède à nouveau en piste montant le numéro 10, Hurricane Coquita. Et c'est Vigna.
So Therese Wickland, Cella finishing their test. As next to come forward will be another Swedish combination. We'll welcome them in just a second. Cella, who was actually bred by Lena Nystrom, who still retains part ownership of the horse. Actually was 5th at Kronenberg a little bit earlier on this year. Had a couple of other good solid placings and has been sub-30 on all 3 of their international tests to date, and actually makes that 4 from 4, 29.0. And Therese Wickland and Cella push Amanda Goldspree, Coolnorran Cooley down into 2nd and take over the top spot. So, new leader here in Elen Danger.
Un pourcentage moyen de 70,98 et un score de 29 points. C'est la première place au classement provisoire pour Therese Wiklund et Cella. Judges good marks for number 9, judging C 70.45, in E 70%, in F 72.5.
As next to come forward, Vigna Eriksdotter Rubin, Hurricane Quita, this mare by Contant Q, owned by Malena Bylin and Dozala Londons. Vigna, who actually comes from predominantly a dressage background, actually represented Sweden at 2 Pony European Championships in the pure discipline. Went to the Young Rider European Championships in Montelibretti as well, and has got off to a sensational start. 8s across the board for their first entry. Hurricane Quita, bred by Malena Bylin, who still retains part ownership of the horse as well. Comes here having been top 10 in Arviel and Vesterstad in the 2-star classes there. And the opportunity for riders to go into rising trot for this Serpentine when they offer the rein, just asking the horses to take the contact forward, just really helps them to relax. Not the most smooth canter transition. Which unfortunately just dragged their score down slightly further again. Looking much more relaxed now in the canter loop And that was really nice. Feels like that canter just has come back together a little bit more for them. It's important with that change across the diagonal, you're sort of waiting for that transition to trot to come up, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and actually sometimes the horses can either anticipate it a little bit early, or they do just fall back into trot slightly, lose a little bit of balance. And again, just possibly a little bit late into that trot transition. Not quite square in the halt. You want to go from the working trot directly into halt if possible, as opposed to a couple of walk steps just shown. Huge overtrack in the walk. Absolutely enormous. See just how far in front the hind leg is landing ahead of the print as such that has been left by the foreleg. This wasn't quite consistent in the contact. And again, just walked into that halt slightly, not quite square behind, but otherwise very good. So, Vignette Eriksdotter Rubin will be in the early 30s, could just sneak into second here. Isn't going to challenge the lead of her teammate Therese Wickland and Cella, who've gone out in front on that score of 29.0. Amanda Goldsbury next on the leaderboard, Coolnorran Cooley 31.7. So it all depends on what the final collective marks come in as. There's a coefficient of 2 for these final collective marks. They get times by 2. .8. It's looking like they'll just sneak into third place on the leaderboard. Therese Wickland and Cella, the new leaders of a few minutes ago, 29.0. The only combination to have gone sub 30 so far here on day one of dressage in Le Lion d'Angers. As next to come forwards, it will be the first of our Italian combinations. Here we go, 31.3, actually just sneaking into second place on the leaderboard. I think those collective marks came in very well for Vignette. As Federico Sacchetti, Larav Lord Tyson next to come forward. Federico, who comes forward representing Italy. His first visit to Le Lion d'Angers, I think. Larav Lord Tyson, the horse that he brings forward here in the 6-year-old Young Horse World Championships. We saw him a few times in the Nations Cup Series this year with GRC Shiraz. She went to the Europeans in Herades de Quidam with the horse as well for the Italian team. Larav Lord Tyson, my 6-year-old, went very, very well in both Babarithco and Avanche. Went as low as 29.4 in Avanche last time out. Finished on the podium at both of those runs. By Tyson, Irish bred. Out of a mare called Miss Alley Cat. Ard Alley Cat, the sire of this horse's dam, owned by Antonio Rusticoni. Of Lord Tyson just getting a little bit inconsistent in the contact here. So he picks him back up. And the canter transition comes up very quickly after that serpentine. We've got to maintain that right canter lead, maintain the rhythm, the regularity of the canter in that loop. And he did a good job. Just rather fell down into trot slightly, lost a little bit of balance on the transition down. And coming round this halt in front of President of our ground jury, Angela Tucker at sea. We don't totally get the view as to how accurate that is, but certainly it looked to be a little bit early, the halt for me. It's a really good indication as to how you see different things from different perspectives, and actually all three of the judges have marked it very well, so perhaps it is just the direction in which we're looking. So important that the judges are at different parts of the arena because they see things from a very different perspective, and sometimes when you look at the scores and there's that little bit of difference, that's because they've just seen different things from different angles. Not quite a final square halt, but a very good test from Federico Sacchetti and Larav Lord Tyson. Federico, just 24 years of age, and as I say, made his senior debut for the Italian team in Herades de Quidam at the European Championships this year. Actually, the Italian team took the qualifying ticket on offer to the highest placed team in the Nations Cup Series who had not yet qualified a team for Paris. They secured that ticket after Buccolo this year. And a big pressure off their team shoulders certainly now all eyes and attention turns to actually going to deliver on the biggest of stages next year. So 31.9 into fourth for Federico Sacchetti and Larav Lord Tyson for Italy. It's getting unbelievably tight in that early part of the leaderboard, in fact. Therese Vicklin, Cella 29.0 out in front. Then Vinya, Eriksdotter Rubin 31.3 with Hurricane Quita. Amanda Goldsbury, Coolnorran Cooley 31.7. And we've just seen Federico Sacchetti, Larav Lord Tyson go into fourth, beg your pardon.
31.9, first place so far.
Next, we turn our attentions to North Slough, Kilbunny Jockey Hall for Morocco. Nor 27 years of age. Based actually over in England. But has spent some time actually over in Europe as well. Moved to France when she was 18. Began studying at the National Riding School in Saumur. Has worked with the likes of Australian international Bill Levitt.
Next to go for Morocco, number 12.
And has been here once before, previously actually, this time last year with Casablanca the second in the 6-year-old class.
Kilbunny Jockey Hall, Mallory's Sport Horse.
And actually, no, very much, I'm sure, will have her eyes set on picking up qualification as an individual for Morocco for the Olympic Games. 2 qualifying tickets on offer to each of the individual groups. Would come forward in Group F alongside athletes from South Africa, Pakistan as well. Those Olympic world ranking points, or Olympic ranking points I should say, taken as a combination. So actually whatever happens here this weekend with Kilbunny Jockey Hall, that wouldn't affect her Olympic dream. This 6-year-old by Quidam Jr., owned by Noor herself, out of a mare called Carneyhoff and Dante, so Irish bred, I think. Completed the 2-star in Kililkey and Mill Street a little bit earlier on this year. A little bit inconsistent with that head carriage and contact. And actually you can see she forgot her 20-metre circle. So she comes round. You heard the bell in the background, President of the Ground, Jerry Angela Tucker. It's an easy movement to forget because you pick up the canter and you go straight into that 20-metre circle with the showing strides of medium canter, and she would have known think as soon as she heard that bell, exactly what she had done. So she will, and unfortunately just losing a little bit of energy and composure perhaps. Just trying to get things back on track. That'll be very expensive. So you lose, it's -2 marks from each of the judges. So -6 marks for the first error, of course. And I believe that gets calculated at the end of the test. So that gets added in at the end as opposed to already being shown in that trending score. Pretty good hold. Quiet in the rein back. So North Lowry, Kilbunny Jockey Hall coming down the final centre line. Not quite square behind. Angela Tucker, president at C, probably hasn't got the best view of that, but Peter Shaw, who's just at E on the long side of the arena, would have unfortunately seen it very clearly. So we'll just watch out for these final scores. You can see there E6 and then 7-7 from C and M, and that is simply because of the different view of that halt that Peter Shaw would have had to his two colleagues. We'll just keep an eye on that score as to see whether the -2 from each of the judges had already been incorporated into the trending score. Overall impression, harmony of horse and rider, 2 6.5s and a 7.5, 34.9. So it had already been incorporated. It's good to know. And sees her sub 35. So into 9th for North Lowry, Kilbunny Jockey Hall. For Morocco,
en E 63,86, en L 66,82. Un pourcentage de 65,15 et un score final de 34.
Next to come forwards, it will be another rider for Italy. Enrico Zeppegno.
An average of 65.15.
Groove Armada. Horse that Enrico brings forwards. Enrico would be 44 years of age. First visit to Le Lion d'Angers, the Young Horse World Championships. Groove Armada, one of 2 6-year-olds he's been campaigning internationally this year. Hanoverian bred by Dancier. Samara, the dam, Swarovski, the dam sire, owned by Enrico himself. And a combination that have actually already done a 2-star long format, finished top 10 in Barova a little bit earlier on this summer. And he really goes for it, that early part of the test, because it's medium trot. You can do it in either sitting or rising. But actually, he was very brave in that medium trot. Got 7.5s across the board for it. And it's interesting because, you know, these young horses, 6 years of age, they all develop at their own different rates. And some of them are strong enough to really ask for everything in the arena. Others, you have to be a little bit more tactful, because while the strength will absolutely come, and the experience will obviously come, they're just not quite ready to be asked for everything at this stage. Could have just came above the bridle actually in the canter transition. Could have just taken the contact a little bit more in the serpentine of loops. Well marked again for that cantaloupe. Showed a very clear difference in the medium canter to the working canter. And a nice downward transition. Just a little bit tight in the rein back. Got a lovely couple of 8s in for the change of rein, but a little bit tight in the rein back. And actually didn't quite get the 3 steps, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects his score. Yeah, 5.5 and 2 6s. But he's pretty close to the leading few here. Little bit abrupt and unbalanced into the halt, but he looks absolutely thrilled with that. Enrico Zepegno and Groove Armada for Italy will be into a podium position with that test. And actually, I think it's going to be a personal best for the horse internationally by some way as well. So he knew that this little horse had given him everything in there. And the horse looks pretty pleased with himself as well. Ears pricked, looking picture of relaxation on the way out of the arena. But Enrico making his Le Lion d'Angers debut here this weekend is going to go pretty close to our leading few. We'll go into third, 31.4, and it is an international personal best for the horse as well, which is great to see for him. It's going to be pretty close to an international personal best for Enrico as well, which is a huge achievement for him. And what a time to do it. So 31.4, second best test of Enrico's international career personally. And I think he's pretty pleased with that. So goes into third.
68.56. Provisional score 31.4. Third place so far. Le Brésil est en piste.
Now it is the turn of Rafael Lozano.
Rafael Manfrim Lozano. Born to run. Sport horse breeding.
Rafael comes here for Brazil. Actually, a young rider who has represented Brazil at the Olympic Games in Tokyo and also finished individually inside the top 10, took a team silver at the Pan American Games back in Lima, Peru in 2019 when Brazil secured that Olympic qualification, and will be back in Brazil, representing Brazil, I should say, in Chile this next week, because the Pan American Games in Santiago about to get underway. So a very, very busy week for Rafael Lozano, and actually it's had a busy few weeks, busy few months, some may say, because actually he was out in Stragom last weekend in Poland, picking up a very, very good Olympic qualification run with Felo G, his top horse. Rides at Withington out in Chile at the Pan American Games. We'll talk about that horse a little bit more in a moment, but Bourne to Run, the horse that he brings forward here by Britannia's Mail. Britannia's Mail, the son of the three-time five-star winner Headley Britannia. Owned by Joanna Lambert. Was sixth at Cornbury in the two-star as part of their preparation for this. Finished on their dressage score of 33.6 on that occasion. Just hollowed a tiny bit going into the counter transition. Just need to keep the quality of the canter in the 3 beat. An easy, simple change across the centre line. And well rewarded from Angela Tucker actually at sea for that. Downward transition into trot. Not at all square, unfortunately, into the halt. The rein back as well, proving quite expensive. Fortunately, just stepping back in that final halt as well. But Rafael Mamprin Lozano for Brazil, the first of the Brazilian riders here this weekend. His teammate actually out in Peru a little bit later on this week in the Pan American Games. Marcio Carvalho Jorge will also be riding a couple of horses here in the Breeding World Championships. So busy few weeks for these riders. Lots at stake. The Brazilian team looking to secure that Olympic qualification. There's 2 tickets on offer to the highest placed teams at the Pan American Games who have not yet qualified. The only team competing there who has qualified would be the United States of America, who of course took the team silver in Protoni last year. Brazil and Canada would be the 2 favourites to pick up the other 2 tickets. But of course, there are actually some 10 teams, I think, represented in Chile. So it's sure to be very competitive. 34.8 into 10th at the moment for Bourne to run. So next to come forwards will be Molly Summerland. Molly, who comes forward with Mojo. Mojo, Dutch bred by Governor, owned by Jane Grover. Molly herself alongside Ginny Wellings and Oliver Wood. And a combination that won the 2-star out in Jardy a little bit earlier on this year. Top 15 at Cornbury as well. And in 3 international tests has scored 25.6, 25.9, and the worst of them all, still a very impressive 26.4. So this could be a horse that we look for to challenge our leaders at the moment. Out in front on a score of 29.0, Therese Vikland and Cella. Molly, very good herself in the first phase. And Mojo, a horse that really has the stamp and the feel of her 5-star winner, Charlie van ter Heijden, and also her up-and-coming superstar, Flow 7. Very uphill way of going. But there's a huge amount of horse, a huge amount of power for Molly to contain in this arena. Off to a very strong start. Molly, who is an incredible advocate for mental health, has spoken very openly and very candidly. Would be a great ambassador for our sport, a great role model to young people as well. Trains in the first phase with Olivia Oakley, but also has trained with the likes of Carl Hester, would be based at Windmill Stud of Julia Norman's yard. Some really nice marks coming in. You see just how uphill this horse is. So much power. You just got to keep the balance, because when you've got this much power in a young horse, that arena does not feel very big. Let me tell you, 20 by 60 disappears very quickly. I think perhaps in that medium canter was almost a little bit of a victim of just how much scope and how big this horse's paces are. Good change. You can see just how much power there is. And Molly did a really good job to control it there, actually. Getting a tiny bit tight. And this canter work at times. But still trending well on track to go out into the lead. Lovely halt. Couple of strides of walk coming into the halt, but actually the halt itself very square. And 3 steps of rein back. Really nice steps of rein back. You just saw the difference in the frame in this horse, actually, in the rein back compared to a couple of the others that we've seen. Huge over track as well in the free walk. And picking up the trot for this final centre line. But looking on track to be our new leaders. Molly Summerland for Great Britain, the first of 3 British riders in this 6-year-old Young Horse World Championship class. And a lovely final halt for Mojo. The best dressage score that we've seen in this 6-year-old class in the past 15 years would have been a 22.4. That was Liz Halliday and Cooley Moonshine back in 2018. They went on to finish 3rd. Just lost the title with a pole down in the show jumping, but this isn't going to quite be up there. It'll go into the top 10 tests at Le Lion d'Angers for this 6-year-old Young Horse World Championships, though. And certainly will be probably top 5 from a British rider as well. So Molly Summerland has set the standard now. Mojo, the one to beat. Wait for that final harmony overall impression score to come through, and that's actually going to improve her score coefficient of 2 and a couple of 8s in there as well. So 25.1, and Molly Summerland and Mojo go out in front for Great Britain. So now just one to go before the break. And about a quarter of the way through all of the competitors in the 6-year-old class here. We have 3 sessions of dressage this morning for the 6-year-olds, 3 tomorrow morning as well. We will be live from 9 o'clock Central European time for the first of those horses down the centre line tomorrow. And now we welcome the 3rd of our Italian combinations, Rebecca Chiaparo and Casiopea Prosa.
25.1.
So Rebecca Chiaparo
the lead in this championship. 25.1.
comes forward for Italy, having been actually to Le Lion d'Angers a couple of times previously. Tintoretto del Quadrifoglio was top 20 as a 6-year-old and as a 7-year-old in 2019 and 2020. Rebecca, 38 years of age, comes forward with Casiopea Prosa, Italian bred by Lohengrin de Villa Emilia, Dame Cassia, Dame Sire Holderlin, owned by Columba Ledite. And a combination that again can score into the 20s, 28.8 their best test internationally. Been second on their last 2 international outings, this duo. It's always very difficult when you come into the arena and you follow a horse that has as big a paces and as much presence as a horse such as Mojo, because it would be rare in eventing to have a horse with paces that big and presence that huge, perhaps. But Rebecca doing a very good job at the early part of her test. A little bit hesitant into the canter transition. Did a good job maintaining that right canter lead. And not shy in showing the medium canter strides at all there. Very easy transition down into the trot. Maintained balance. Just stepped out behind, a little bit wide in front possibly as well, which is a real shame in that halt. Because she was well marked actually for her change of rein, 2/8 coming in, which just saw her drop sub 30. Unfortunately, that's going to see her go back up above 30, those 2 movements. Still a very good test from Rebecca. And not quite square on the final halt, but she'll be pleased with that. And will be close to the 30 barrier as they finish their first phase here. Of course, don't forget that we will have the rest of the competition live for you on FEI.tv and on Clip My Horse throughout the weekend, because from Saturday morning, we will be live with the cross country over Pierre Michelet's cross country course here. And if you've never seen the cross country course in Le Lion d'Angers, you will not want to miss it. It is an extraordinary work of art. And the crowds pile in, a hugely enthusiastic crowd as well. It's a real experience. So 30.5 into third for Rebecca and Casiopea Prosa. So they just slot in behind Molly Summerland and Mojo, who lead the way on 25.1. Therese Vickland and Cella 29.0, the only other sub-30 score. Then we've just seen Rebecca go into third. It pushes Avinia Eriksdotter Rubin down into fourth with Hurricane Quita and Enrico Zapeno 31.4 in fifth. So all change in this session of dressage in terms of the leaderboard. And it is Molly Summerland and Mojo for Great Britain, the ones to beat. 25.1 is the score out in front. Can anybody overtake that score as we head into the final session of dressage here on day one? We'll have another 3 sessions tomorrow for you as well. This session, though, the likes of Stéphane Landois, Hermes Dugevoden will get us underway. You've got Izzy Taylor, a former winner of this class with monkeying around. Barrington Alice, definitely one to look out for as well. So we've got a few moments break now, and we will be back at just gone 10 past 11. So you've got around 10 minutes break, and we'll be back for the next session of dressage in this 6-year-old division at Le Lion d'Angers 2023.
Alors pendant la fin de cette pause, eh bien, je vais vous redonner le classement tout à fait provisoire du dressage dans ce championnat du monde des chevaux de 6 ans. En tête, c'est la Grande-Bretagne, Molly Summerland et Mojo, 25,10. Deuxième, Therese Viklund et Cella pour la Suède, 29. Troisième pour l'Italie, c'est Rebecca Ciapero et Casiopea Prosa, 30,40. Quatrième place pour la Suède à nouveau, avec Hurricane Quita et Vinja Eriksdotter Robin, 31,30. Cinquième, l'Italie et Groove Armada Enrico Zepegno, 31,40. Sixième, la Nouvelle-Zélande et Amanda Goldsberry, Coolnorran Cooley, 31,70. Huitième. Pardon, septième, Federico Sacchetti et Larav Tyson, 31,90. Huitième, Merel Blom Hulsman et Ukario R, 33 points. Neuvième, pour l'Australie, Isabelle English et Elen Fields Pra, 33,50. Dixième, la Belgique, au hauteur de Greenogue et Ragdoll de Tamise, 34 points. Dixième ex-aequo pour les Pays-Bas, Rinske Kreuze, 34 points et Magic Coconut. Douzième pour le Maroc, c'est Norslawi et Kilbunny Jockey Hall, 34,90. Ex-aequo avec le Brésil, Raphaël Manfrin et Lozano et Bourne, 34,90. 14e, c'est pour l'Irlande, Jan Cassel, c'est Greenogue Gigi, 35,20. Et 15e, pour la République tchèque, Miroslav Trunda et Avita, 37,10. Avec... elle a fait le break, Molly Summerland et Mojo à 25,10. La deuxième place est à 29. C'est une très jolie reprise et dans maintenant 8 et 4, 12, dans 4 minutes, nous accueillerons la France et le numéro 17. La France en piste, il monte le 17 Hermès du Gévaudan. Nous accueillons Stéphane Landois. Hermès du Gévaudan, un sel français par Quintus d'Eau et Ambre du Gévaudan par Quality Touch, propriété de Véronique Landois. Next to go France, number 17.
Welcome back to Le Lion d'Angers, to the Young Horse World Breeding Championships for eventing. And the final session of the day for the 6-year-old class. They're approaching the halfway stage for the 6-year-old division. We'll turn our attentions a little bit later on today, of course, to the 7-year-olds. But first of all, Stéphane Landois, Hermès du Gévaudan, the next combination to come forward. Stéphane, actually, I believe his first visit to Le Lion d'Angers for the Young Horse World Championships. He is 29 years of age, made his senior debut for the French team a little bit earlier on this year with Chamon du Monceau. Actually finished 6th individually, won the Nations Cup at Chatsworth a little bit earlier on this year as well. Hermès du Gévaudan, Cell Francais, bred by Quintus d'Onine, out of a mare called Ambre de Gévaudan, sire of the dam Quality Touch. So some Irish in there as well. Owned by Véronique Landois. 2 internationals to this horse's name. Been on the podium in both of them, including 3rd in Pompadour in the Young Horse 2-star back in September. Really nice start to his test. He's been consistently picking up lots of 7.5s. These cantaloupes, a real test of the balance and suppleness of these young horses. Actually, so far today, they've coped very well with them. Nice transition down to trot. And keeps a really nice frame and balance in the trot. Good hold. 2, 3, 4 steps of rein back. So the test asks for 3 to 4. So it's much more open than the tests as you go up the levels. At the 4-star level, when you have rein back, it's 5 steps of rein back exactly. Whereas for these young horses, just giving that small element of leeway and just reducing the difficulty. It's one of my favourite things when you get to see the different levels of competition, particularly when we're seeing some of the best young horses in the world here this weekend. But as we go up to the 7-year-old class, you see that progression of difficulty up to the 3-star test. And we'll see it on the cross country. There's similarities between some of the obstacles, but also the development in what the course designer is asking for. Lovely final halt for Stéphane Landois. And the biggest cheer of the day from the French crowd as well, it should be said. Herades de Quidam, 27.9 he's trending, so he's not going to trouble Molly Summerland, our leader. 25.1 with Mojo out in front for Great Britain. But certainly will go into a clear second place. Stéphane, who has been really making a name for himself over the last few seasons, but 2023 has been a real breakthrough year for him. And very exciting for him going into a home Olympic Games next year as well. Lots to look forward to. So Stéphane Landois, 27.5s for overall impression, gives him 27.8 as a penalty score, and that sees him go into second.
Next to go for Ireland, number 18.
Fair agreement across our three members of the ground jury. Remind you of them. Angela Tucker at C. Angela, who was actually on the ground jury for badminton a little bit earlier on this year. Peter Shaw for Australia at E. And Meryl Scherink for the Netherlands at M. Meryl, who recently was on the ground jury for the Nations Cup Series finale in Buccolo. Now we welcome the next of our Irish combinations. We've already had Ian Cassell's Greenogue Gigi. Ian scored 35.2. Excuse me, my voice will come back in just a second. Sean Coleman now comes forward with Diamond Mistress.
For an average of 72.2, following score 27.8.
Sean, who is back in the saddle, having had a baby not that long ago, I think back in May. Based in Kililkey, or near Kililkey, I should say, Mallow in Ireland. And has had some good solid results here in Le Lion d'Angers in the past. Top 15 with Hushabye Baby, now her top horse, back in 2020 in the 7-year-old class then. Diamond Mistress Irish bred by Kate Jarvie, by Diorado, out of a Master Imp mare called She's My Master. And Kate actually owns this horse still now. Kate, who will have bred plenty of top horses in her career, and I'm sure she gets just as much pleasure now from seeing them making their international debut. Another by Diorado. We saw actually one of the first to go, Elen Fields Pra, ridden by Isabel English. A Diorado. It's in combination actually that as well have had 3 international starts, have never added a penalty to their starting dressage score, finished on their dressage score on each of those 3 starts, 2nd, 4th and 2nd. Actually their last run at Cornbury in the Young Horse 2-star, which was a very competitive field, they finished on a score of 26.0. So just unfortunately dropping a few marks there at the end of the trot work, which was a real shame, because this is a horse that is certainly capable of picking up the mid-20s dressage. 30 barrier once again. That rein back proving really costly. Very relaxed in the free rein, could just take the contact forward a little bit more. Sean, who actually recently won the 4-star long format at Ballindenisk with Hushabye Baby, would really like her chances to be in contention for the Irish team for Paris next year. Dribbled a little bit into the final halt, possibly a little miscommunication, just a couple of walk steps and not quite square, but still you can see how much potential this horse has in this phase, and a couple of expensive mistakes today, but definitely lots to come in the future. Sean Coleman and Hushabye Baby will be going into a top 10 position. Our leader, remember, Molly Summerland, Mojo on 25.1. Just got the 3 sub-30 scores at the moment. Stéphane Landois, Hermes de Gévaudan, 27.7 in second. Therese Vicklin, 29.0 in third. Into seventh, 31.6 for Sean Coleman and Diamond Mistress. And actually, in terms of Irish combinations coming forwards, we will have, I believe, one more tomorrow. And that will be Stephen Smith and Strangford halfway through tomorrow's competition. So now for Switzerland, the first of the Swiss combinations that we've seen this weekend. Roxane Gonfard, Herades de Quidam by Untouchable M. This is a horse Roxane owns herself. Roxane, who actually went to the European Championships for Switzerland in Le Moulin back in 2019. Was part of the Swiss team in Buccolo as well. And the horse that she brings forward here, Herades de Quidam, one of a few in the field to have actually already done a long format 2-star. Some of these horses stepping up to the long format level for the first time in their careers. Just getting a little bit tight in the neck and hollow in that leg yield. But 4 international starts for this horse, jumped clear cross country in all of them. Just losing a little bit of balance there as they get ready to pick up the canter. just comes above the bit slightly. And picking up the counter transition again. Looking a little bit more consistent in the frame, in the canter. Perhaps not so at the end of that circle, but to get this loop. And actually just bringing that score back down sub 40. Just didn't show a huge amount of immobility, halted but just moved slightly and then was very quickly into the rein back. And just almost picking up a counter transition. Little bit of tension creeping in. But a lovely square halt to finish. So Roxanne gone far. Herades de Paris for Switzerland have completed their test. That actually leaves us with just 4 to go on day 1 for the 6-year-old division here in Le Lion d'Angers. 1 for Germany, 1 for Great Britain, 1 for France, and 1 for Spain. Our ground jury here this weekend for the 6-year-old class: Angela Tucker, president at C. At E, Peter Shaw for Australia. And at M, Merrill Schurink for the Netherlands. We've got a different ground jury for the 7-year-old division. We'll introduce you to them very shortly. As next to come forward, it is a very talented young German rider in Johanna Mahler. Johanna, who is perhaps most well known for her partnership with Crazy Carlotta. She's a very good producer of young horses, just 23 years of age, not quite 24, will turn 24 next month. Comes forward with JS Chakalaka. This Hanoverian bred by Jürgen Stuntman, or was bred by Jürgen Stuntman, by Jaguar Male. So the sire of other top event horses such as Australia's Vasily de Laos, who actually went very well here as a young horse. The dam Quiet Please out of Quasi-Wa. Owned by Marla Further Sports. And a horse that actually has done 4 internationals, clear cross country in all 4 of them, in the 20s in the dressage in all 4 of them as well. Best test of 27.2. What can they do here? Molly Summerland, Mojo, leads the way, 25.1. And a very tall, elegant rider. Certainly started out well in touch with our leaders. this serpentine where riders are asked for each loop to go to the side of the arena in rising trot, all about allowing the horses to stretch forwards and down. You want to see that real stretch over the horse's back, but a light contact still, and a clear transition into and out of. That is so important when you read through the tests that you would be riding, whatever level, whether it be internationally, nationally, unaffiliated, that you really pay attention to where each movement's.
Vous venez d'assister à la très jolie reprise de Johanna Marlowe. Elle montait pour l'Allemagne JS Chakalaka. Nous attendons les notes d'ensemble et peut-être retrouver Johanna Marlowe sur le podium provisoire. Voici les résultats pour Johanna Marlowe et JS Chakalaka pour l'Allemagne. Jugeant C 74,09, jugeant E 73,64, jugeant M 72,50 pour un pourcentage moyen de 73,41.
So Johanna has completed her test. Apologies for the small drop in commentary there. As next to come forward will be Izzy Taylor and Barrington Alice. We'll come on to it in just a second. Confirming that score for Johanna Marlowe though. And going into a very, very strong position. And another sub-30 score to add to the day's efforts so far.
Il devrait se présenter maintenant en piste, montant le 21 Barrington Alice. Izzy Taylor. Next to go for Great Britain, number 21, Barrington Alice, Sporters Breeding, Great Britain.
So Izzy Taylor is the next to come forwards. Izzy rides Barrington Alice. Izzy, who's a former winner of the 6-year-old young horse championships here, one with that monkeying around horse that went on to win Bramham long format 4-star for her, and also took the top 10 finish at a European Championships at Le Moulin back in 2019, I think it was. So, Izzy Taylor next to come forwards. And Izzy, as I say, rides at Barrington Alice.
Barrington Alice pour la Grande-Bretagne.
Barrington Alice was just outside the top 10, finished on her dressage score of 29.4 at Cornbury Park in the young horse 2-star there. Also was third at Nunney. Had a 26.9 in the first phase at Nunney, so very capable of a low score in the dressage. By Johnny Hornby of Barrington Sport Horses, who've been big supporters of the sport over the last couple of years, by Kevin Z, out of a mare called Alacom Mayday. And actually, Izzy used to compete up to the very, very top level. Another Alacom horse, Alacom Ellie, I think it was selected certainly for a major championship on that horse. Wasn't able to go because picked up an injury. And Izzy has had a pretty tough season, it should be said as well. Things haven't been that straightforward. Had a couple of falls, and she's a tough cookie. Had a really smart result, actually, with the SBH Big Wall at Buccaleau. And would dearly love to finish her season in some style here in Le Lion d'Angers. Is he always brilliant at producing a test? Never gives anything away in the first phase. You could really see that transition there to show those medium canter strides. And the mare comes back to her very well. Keeping very good balance and regularity in that canter-loop. You get judged for the sort of size and shape of that canter-loop, as well as the quality of the canter and the regularity of those steps and the rhythm. So the canter lead across the diagonal again. This is going to be a competitive score. Another to add to the sub-30s as much at the moment. Lovely halt in front of President of the Ground Jury, Angela Tucker. Let's see, I'll be interested to see what marks that picks up from the judges. It wasn't 100% square, but it was very, very easy, very uphill. And you can see 2 9s and an 8. Maybe I was being picky and saying it wasn't 100% square just from our angle here, but actually well rewarded for that because it was lovely. Now the first 2 9s that we've seen of the day, actually. But again, another lovely halt for Izzy Taylor and Barrington Alice, who looks like a really smart sort for the future. And when I say the future, I mean this weekend could well be a time to shine for them as well, because they're going to be well in touch. They'll go second, not quite close enough to Molly Summerland and Flo 7 to take the lead, but certainly within touching distance. 26.6 was Joanna Marler, GS Chakalaka's score. So going to be very close to whether they can just sneak. I think they will just sneak with those final halt salute marks as well. 8.588 for Izzy Taylor. And she will just go into second, 26.1. So Izzy Taylor and Barrington Alice have completed their test. 26.1 sees them go into second on the leaderboard. Molly Summerland and Mojo holding on to the top spot at the moment.
Judges gold marks for number 21, judging C, 75%, in E, 74.55, in N, 72.27, an average of 73.94, provisional score 26.1. Second place so far, well done. Alors, nous avons maintenant la Grande-Bretagne qui crosse les 2 premières places.
Just 2 more combinations to come forward on day 1 here of the Young Horse World Championships, the Breeding World Championships. You can just see the wind has actually picked up slightly. It was very still first thing this morning, but actually the flags have just started to really fly in the breeze. The tents are flapping as well. The atmosphere, there's already more people around, and it'll be interesting to see if we see that translate into any more tension throughout the day, because actually we've seen these young horses coming into this arena and really showing themselves off this morning. Yes, there's been the odd moment of tension, but actually on the whole, they've been really rideable and very relaxed given the occasion. So for France now, it is Hurry Up Colpu and Gireg Lecos. Gireg Lecos, who has been representing France at the top level of the sport for a good number of years now, rather fired himself onto the international scene with a great Event Rider Masters win with Ace de la Loge a few years ago, but has since gone on to have some very impressive performances at the likes of Chio Arc and at Badminton as well. Hurry Up Colpu by Upsilon, who himself came here as a young horse, actually, with Thomas Carlyle, owned by Marc Lecos. were 4th at Pompadour in the Young Horse 2-Star a little bit earlier on in September. And that was actually a class that was won by Thomas Carlyle and Amis Gay, who I believe we'll see coming forward in this class tomorrow. We will. They go down the centre line at 10:20 local time. Good egg. Another very, very tall, elegant rider. This horse definitely, you can see the stamp of his father, who I'm sure in the early part of his career, probably when he was here in Le Lion d'Angers actually, would have been a similar colour as well. Just that slight bit of tension there in the Serpentines, just pulling his score down. Just dropped into the trot slightly. Lost a little bit of core strength, but actually really nice uphill way of going in the canter. He's doing a very, very good job presenting this test as well. Pompadour would be the French Young Horse Championships, actually. And, we've certainly got a good number of those top finishing horses here representing France in Le Lion d'Angers this weekend. Not quite square behind, but square in front. France, the 3 nominated horses here this weekend, 3 of the top 4 in Pompadour, in fact. One we're missing, Hitchquote de Coudray, Astia Nicolas, who finished 2nd. But the other horses all with a very strong chance, one would imagine, this weekend. It's a class that was won last year by a French rider, Thomas Carlyle, Golden de Belliard, who come back to try and take the 7-year-old title this year. Greg Lacoz. Hurry Up Colpu have completed their test and will give us another sub-30 score. And you can really hear the enthusiasm of the French crowd. And if you think the enthusiasm here today on early dressage day is something, then wait until Saturday, because there is nothing quite like the crowds on Le Lion d'Angers cross country day. There is so many people cheering, clapping, encouraging these young horses. It's very much the first time lots of them will have been exposed to that kind of atmosphere, and you often find that it stands them in very, very good stead for future big events as well. But it certainly takes, particularly with the 6-year-olds, a real kind of stamp and a temperament of horse that can take that in their stride. So, Greg Lacoz, Hurry Up Colpo, 28.0. They go into 5th, and that sees the one to beat at the moment still Molly Summerland and Mojo. It's a Britain one too, actually, because Izzy Taylor and Barrington Alice sit in 2nd. 26.1. Joanna Mahler, JS Chakalaka for Germany in 3rd, 26.6. Now we go to Spain by Beitutu, ridden by Alvaro Blanco Traba Centenera.
Number 23.
This is a horse that is by Lizarazu 17, owned by Luis Cabanas Gordino. Alvaro Blanco Traba Centenera. The last to go on day 1 here for the 6-year-old division. We, of course, will still have plenty of coverage for you because we'll be turning our attention to the 7-year-olds very shortly. Big question is, will Molly Summerland be our overnight leader with Mojo on that score of 25.1? Or will we see this combination head to the top of the leaderboard? That is Peter Gray at E. Best test we've seen from a Spanish rider at Le Lion d'Angers actually came from Alexis Gomez and Madagascar C back in 2019 in the 7-year-old Young Horse Championships. On that occasion, 30.2. So bidding to be the first rider to go sub 30 from Spain here in Le Lion, or certainly in the last 15 years. Got off to a lovely start. Had a really nice first impression. President of our ground jury, Angela Tucker at C. Peter Gray from Australia at E, and then the judge just out of view of our camera shot is Meryl Scherink from the Netherlands at M. So when we see Angela Tucker's judge's box, Meryl's is just off to the right hand side as we look at it. Very relaxed in this serpentine, could just perhaps take the contact a little bit more. Nice steps of medium canter there. And this is certainly a very smart test from this combination. Good downward transition. Couple of steps of walk into the halt. And actually, sometimes what we found with those horses that are just walking a couple of steps into the halt rather than going directly into the halt, they're just not quite stepping up to be square. So it ends up being a little bit unbalanced. But again, you know, these horses are only 6 years of age, and the years of sort of perfecting those tiny details, such as the halts, very much still ahead of them. Just a little bit above the contact in the final halt, but Alvaro Blanca Traba Centera for Spain and Bebe Tutu have completed their test. It's going to be among the best tests that we've seen, actually, from a Spanish rider in the 6-year-old division here at Le Lion d'Angers. Because the best test previously in Le Lion in the 6-year-old division for Spain would have been a 32.0. Eduardo Villadafen, Ibera Pomez back in 2016. So it's going to be close enough to that, and gives them lots to look forward to for the rest of the weekend. So just waiting for those final scores to come in. The harmony of athlete and horse, all about a confident partnership that adheres to the scale of training. And interestingly, that harmony of athlete and horse collective mark, the description is exactly the same no matter what test and what level you are competing at. So whether you're at 3-star, 5-star, 2-star, 1-star, it is the coefficient of 2 and the harmony of athlete and horse. So Alvaro Blanco Centera, 32.4, 10. Day 1 of dressage for the 6-year-old division. Conclusion, half of the combination forward today to present to our ground jury. We'll have the other half of them tomorrow. And of course, we've still got plenty more action to bring you, because we'll be focusing our attentions on the 7-year-old division, which will be coming up very, very shortly. But for now, let's just take a look at how things look overnight. So 25.1, Great Britain out in front, Molly Summerland and Mojo, the ones to beat, ahead of Izzy Taylor and Barrington Alice, 26.1 in second. Joanna Marler and JS Chakalaka in third, 26.6. Stéphane Landois, Hermes de Gévaudan, 27.7 in fourth. Gireg Lecoz, 28.0 fifth. And Therese Vickland, the only other sub-30 score, 29.0, with Cella to sit in sixth. So that is how things look overnight. A little bit further down, you've got the likes of Cheyenne Coleman, Diamond Mistress, rounding out the top 10, 31.6. Amanda Goldsbury, Coolnorran Cooley, 31.7 for New Zealand. We'll see another ride for Amanda as one of the last to go later on tomorrow. And we've still got plenty of big names to come in this 6-year-old division. Thomas Carlyle, who won here 12 months ago with Golden de Billiards, actually has Amise Gay, the winner of the 2-star in Pompadour a few weeks ago, the French Young Horse National Championships there. He will be coming forward tomorrow. You've got Kevin McNabb, who's a former 7-year-old young horse winner here in the past as well. Kitty King, a bit of a Le Lion specialist, comes forward with Cantango, the horse that won the British 6-year-old title. And I'm sure that there will be a good bit of movement on that leaderboard as well. Can Molly Summerland Mojo hold on to the top spot? We hope that you will tune in tomorrow for the remaining 6-year-old dressage combinations to come forward. Will be live from 9 o'clock Central European time. But do stick with us today as well, because plenty more to come in your direction. We will be turning our attentions to the 7-year-old Young Horse World Championships. And that class gets underway at 1 o'clock local time. So in just under an hour's time, Kevin McNabb and Pharaoh Imp will be the first to go. And plenty of big names there today as well. So do stay with us and we'll be back after this break.
Riding Casiopea Prosa on 30.4. In 6th place from Sweden, Herades de Quidam, riding Cella on 29. In 5th place from France, Ragdoll de Tamise, riding Herades de Quidam on 28. In 4th place, equally from France, Stéphane Lambrois, riding Herades de Quidam on 27.7. In 3rd place from Germany, Johanna Mauro, riding JS Chakalaka on 26.6. Lying in 2nd from Great Britain, Izzy Taylor, riding Barrington Alice on 26.1. And in the lead, equally from Great Britain, Molly Summerland, riding Mojo on 25.5.